One place I think about a lot is Fry's Electronics. I don't remember much about it, but I do remember that the store was massive. It was meant to be your one-stop shop for anything technology. I went as a kid with my family only a few times since it was so far away, but I was always mesmerized by how much was there. It broke my heart when, in researching this video, I found out that it was one of COVID's victims. I don't know why I'm so sad. Maybe it's because I'd appreciate Fry's more as an adult. Maybe because it's a stalwart reminder of a childlike wonder I lost as I grew older. Or maybe it's because that's where I bought PokéPark Wii Pikachu's Adventure. Probably not, but roll with me here. PokéPark Wii was released in what I call the golden age of Pokemon. I don't have too much time to talk about this as it's not the video's focus, but I consider Pokemon to have gone through 4 distinct eras: the Pokemon craze, the golden age, the reboot age, and the gimmick age. There's a reason I decided to call them these, and we'll get to that some other time. But for now, between generations 2 and 4, Game Freak knows what they are doing, and they usher in the golden age of Pokemon. During this golden age, we get some of the best mainline games, incredible and memorable spin-offs, and this. There's a reason it's called the Golden Age. And PokéPark Wii Pikachu's Adventure was one of the final games released in this era, in 2010, before Pokemon Black and White would radically change the direction of Pokemon moving forward. It's because of this that I hold this game near to my heart. It's a reminder of when I first fell in love with Pokemon. I never considered it my favorite Pokemon game. That honor goes to the Generation 2 remakes. But for me, it's a time capsule that takes me back to a simpler time, which is why I decided to play through it again, to re-experience Pikachu's great adventure. But if you're looking at the title, you'll see things didn't go all that well. Yay. If you've never played PokéPark Wii, you should know that you are Pikachu and are minding your own business before you fall into a psychedelic hole, find yourself in a brand new reality, and are quested by a weird mythical creature to save said reality before it's too late, a la Majora's Mask. Pikachu is about as Pikachu as he gets. He can run, jump, use Thunderbolt, and later learn Iron Tail. Besides that, he's a pretty easy character to grasp and control. At least that's what I would say if this game wasn't on the Wii, because this game's biggest atrocity, of course, is the controls. As with a lot of other Wii games, you play with a horizontal Wiimote. This is fine for games like New Super Mario Bros. Wii or Fluidity, which take place in 2D environments, but for 3D, this is awful! I thought Nintendo had mastered 2D versus 3D in 1996 with Super Mario 64. 1996! Okay, junior game designers, here's a lesson from your old pal Paranova. If you're making a 3D game, do not use the D-pad to control your character. D-pad doesn't mix with 3D environments. You eventually get used to it in PokéPark, but precise movement is always such a chore in the game, borderline impossible, especially with that stupid treehouse. The nunchuck exists, why? As for the PokéPark we're trying to save, there's not much to save. The PokéPark is divided into various zones, each usually with its own leader. We got Jolly Roger Bay, Lethal Lava Land, and Hazy Maze Cave to name a few. Sorry, wrong game. These zones are just so uncreative it hurts. You have
grass, water, ice, cave, lava.
The early locales have nothing special about them. There's the drill in the lava zone, and a Christmas tree in the iceberg zone, and the recycling bin in the beach zone. The game does start to pick up its locations towards the end, but there's still so much to be desired. The best you're getting is a flower field in the middle of some ancient ruins, and you're only going to spend about 10 minutes there, tops. Never mind that. What exactly are we saving the park from anyway? The threat will vary between the 2 PokéPark games that exist, but your threat in PokéPark Wii is that the sky is falling. The Sky Pavilion, a giant floating temple, is about to fall into the PokéPark and destroy everything, a la Majora's Mask. You need to collect 14 magic rocks called Sky Prism pieces that have fallen to the park and repair the Sky Prism before it's too late. You'll get these Sky Prism pieces by clearing glorified minigames called attractions all over the park. These attractions are okay, I guess. Most of them are worthy of shovelware minigame collections, to be honest. Yes, Bulbasaur, I love aggressively shaking my Wiimote for 10 seconds at a time. Crikey. Some of these are more than just okay. Well, only 2 of them. Bastiodon's Block Barrage and Rotom's Spooky Shoot 'em Up. Out of all the attractions, these 2 are the ones you'll probably keep coming back to just because all the others either have you aggressively shake the Wiimote or race through a predetermined path. For attractions specifically, you don't just play as Pikachu. In fact, unless you use cheat codes called passwords, some attractions can't even be played as Pikachu. Instead, you'll want to ask your Poke friends to help you, and if they clear it, it counts as you clearing it too. It's a cute way of letting me play as Espeon or Magikarp, no complaints here. PokéPark's friendship system is at the heart of the game. From the get-go, you're encouraged to make lots of friends. You'll do this by playing skill games in the overworld. You can play chase, battle, quiz, obstacle hop, or hide and seek depending on the Pokemon, and beating said Pokemon at one of these games will usually make them your friend, and you'll add them to your notebook, a la Majora's Mask. These skill games aren't very good either. Most Pokemon will want to play chase with you, and it usually consists of running until you hit the Pokemon you're after. It's incredibly repetitive, which gets a bit annoying after a while. Sometimes a Pokemon will use an attack to try and trip you up, but it doesn't happen enough to make chase anything special. Battles had some thought put into it, but for most Pokemon, you can just spam Thunderbolt followed by a Dash or Iron Tail. There's no real strategy behind battles besides that some Pokemon are immune to Thunderbolt, in which you just spam Dash or Iron Tail. I can appreciate battles working surprisingly well in the 3D environments, despite the wonky controls. Quizzes are pretty easy, just answer 3 questions, nothing special here. Obstacle Hop sucks. Imagine Minecraft parkour on a Wiimote. Good thing you only play it 4 times in the whole game. And then there's Hide and Seek, which isn't all that bad, but it's all way too easy. And that's the biggest issue with this uncreative game. It's way too easy and repetitive. Now, you may recall that when I covered Plants vs. Zombies, I said the exact same thing about PvZ, but I was able to look past the issue and appreciate the fun that the game brought along. But the difference between both of these games is the presence of strategy, for which PokéPark Wii has none. With Plants vs. Zombies, while there are some rudimentary plant combinations that you can make to fend off waves of zombies, there is at least some sort of thought that goes into each level, and you're also free to experiment with different plant combinations to see what works best, or even just to have fun. But with PokéPark Wii, you don't really have to think. Even harder chases and battles have some sort of a cheap strategy that once you figure out, you can just exploit and it'll work the rest of the game no problem. And because there's only one way to win each skill game in PokéPark versus Plants vs. Zombies having thousands of plant combinations, it just leaves much to be desired. As you make friends, whether through skill games or odd jobs, the game's story begins to progress, and honestly, the game's writing might unironically be the best thing that this game offers. Upon arriving at the Meadow Zone, you realize that Venusaur has established a fascist dictatorship and banned fun in the name of security against the rest of the park. He'll go so far to outlaw fun that his personal mafia will kidnap your friend Chikorita, never to be seen again. Why is this uncreative snooze fest of a game tackling real-world issues of Orwellian dystopias and the fear that creates them? You eventually convince Venusaur to step out of fear, open his borders, and unban fun, and you continue your journey. Your quest to collect the prism pieces leads you to the frozen iceberg zone, where Empoleon has abandoned his duties as leader and sealed himself away from all of society. When you finally reach him, he goes on about how his joy and sorrow, his emotion is his weakness, and how his steel will is the only thing that can protect him from ever being hurt by anyone again. Why is this uncreative snooze fest of a game tackling real-world issues of betrayal, depression, and isolation? You eventually convince Empoleon to open his heart as you continue your quest. You are then led to the Lava Zone, where Blaziken endlessly trains to save the PokéPark. He decides that raw power is the only way to unite the park, and upon the suggestion of rekindling old friendships with those he fought against, he scoffs and decides he doesn't need to work with those he disagrees with in order to save the park they all love. Why is this uncreative snooze fest of a game tackling real-world issues of the divisiveness of the modern political climate? You convince Blaziken to reach across the aisle and restore his friendship with Venusaur and Empoleon. In case you haven't picked it up, notice how this uncreative snooze fest of a game is tackling incredibly real and relevant themes. PokéPark Wii touches on the toughest parts of the human experience, a la Majora's Mask. What do we do when we fail those we love? How do we cope with loss and grief? And what happens when we're confronted with the reality of death? I would not be surprised if you identified yourself with the fear of Venusaur, the depression of Empoleon, or the anger of Blaziken. I know I certainly have. And this game tries to spend time building on these very serious themes. But it's hard to take this game seriously because the game doesn't really dive into these stories as much as it should. Not only that, but the game's tone doesn't lend itself to building on these themes either. While they aren't an afterthought, they weren't executed well enough to do anything outstanding. They feel like a footnote in an otherwise uncreative snooze fest of a game. And while continuing through the haunted, granite, and flower zones, the game continues to ask these introspective questions about friendship and love, and you learn the park's infighting and the threat of the falling pavilion aren't coincidental. In fact, it's the infighting at the park that's caused the Sky Prism to shatter. And if things don't change soon, the Sky Pavilion will destroy the park once and for all. So Pikachu and the gang finally make it to the Sky Pavilion and meet with Mew. Your quest is nearly complete, you just need to make one more friend. And after befriending Mew, the Sky Prism is finally restored and the PokéPark is saved. This last part of the game had me a bit emotional, to say the least. After being asked all these questions about the value and importance of friendship, I realized that this game really had the potential to speak out into the world with sincere messages about humanity. But it was seriously held back by the fact that it's, to put it bluntly, a mediocre game. When playing through PokéPark Wii, I often thought about The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, my favorite game of all time. And I think that's because both games have myriad similarities, both on the surface level and underneath. And after some thinking, I realized that this game could have been right alongside Majora's Mask as one of my favorite games of all time. But it's not. And the reason for that is because it's not a good game. While PokéPark Wii tackles topics that many games wouldn't even come near, and that does merit some praise, the game itself isn't all that great. As a kid, I imagined this game as PokéPark Wii, Pikachu's great adventure. But really, it's just mediocre. Not good, not bad, just mediocre and kinda lame. Overall, the game was not creative nor groundbreaking, and the game's plot and themes have already been done justice by another game that is just better overall. But it's not always about the journey, it's about the friends you've made along the way. And as you play the game, you do grow to appreciate the time you spent with PokéPark's denizens, doing things like cleaning up the beach, fixing the minecart, and building a home to make friends just feels really nice. And if the game does something right, it's showing how friendship is one of the most important things we have in society. It's easy to get caught up in the world's injustices and close our doors in fear, barricade ourselves with our emotions, or brute force our way into fixing them. But we need to remember that no matter what happens, I think we all want the same thing. We want a better world for each other and for those who will come after us. And the most important thing we can do for this world is to realize that, like Venusaur and Empoleon and Blaziken, that we can be wrong, humble ourselves, and step out in faith. Will we get hurt? Yes. Will we get shunned? Yes. But are we fighting for something better than ourselves? I'd say yes, and PokéPark Wii reminds us that no matter our differences, we can come together for something better than ourselves.